Welcome to EduTips, a side project of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast where I share one quick idea to make your teaching better. This is Jennifer Gonzalez and I am your host. This EduTip is sponsored by CommonLit. Do teachers at your school already love CommonLit? Well, their School Essentials Pro package might be the perfect fit for your team. In addition to their digital library of over 3,000 amazing reading lessons for grades 3 through 12, you'll get access to CommonLit's assessment series, 3 benchmark assessments with actionable, standards-based data that'll help your team track students' reading growth throughout the year, all the training your team needs to be successful with CommonLit's whole literacy program, including personalized webinars and dozens of on-demand trainings, and help from the CommonLit team with integrating CommonLit with ClassLink, Clever, Canvas, and Google Classroom to save you time. And you get all of this for 4 or 5 times less than the cost of other ELA programs out there. To learn more, go to cultofpedagogy.com/commonlit, COMMONLIT. Scroll down to fill out the form, mention Cult of Pedagogy in the Questions for Our Team section, and get $100 off for your school. They're excited to work with you and your team. Today's EduTip is avoid assignments that are too open-ended. Many of us in education talk about how important it is to give students choice, to empower them to steer their own learning in a direction that's meaningful to them. I believe this wholeheartedly. It drives me crazy to walk the halls of a school and see 26 nearly identical student art projects, or to hear that a teacher has assigned all 4 sections of his history class the exact same topic for a research project. But there is another end to this spectrum. While it's true that student choice has a lot of value, it's possible to give them so much choice that it kind of backfires. When an assignment has little to no structure at all, students often respond with confusion, not creativity. If you're in an art class, for example, there's a big difference between having your teacher say, "Okay, make something," versus saying, "Everyone is going to start with the same block of clay. Your task is to sculpt something that," fill in the blank. Maybe it's something that represents an emotion, or something that features 5 different textures, or something that gives the viewer the feeling of weightlessness. The possibilities are endless. All of those offer some kind of a clearly defined problem to solve, but they have a lot of room for creativity. Or say you're in a creative writing class. Being told to write whatever you want isn't really inspiring unless you happen to already be a regular writer with some kind of ongoing project. But if you're told to write a piece that tells a full story in less than 100 words, that's a creative challenge. I remember experiencing this once as a middle school student myself. My teacher told us we had to write a paper, and the only guideline she gave us was that the topic had to have something to do with England. That was it. That was the whole assignment. I suppose this type of assignment might appeal to someone, but it just sent me into kind of a spiral. What did she mean about England? Like the history of it, the geography, the people, architecture, food? Could I do a single paper about Cadbury chocolate, Princess Diana? And how long did it have to be anyway? Did we have to include a bibliography, a cover page? Yes, I was a pretty type A kid, but I am not going to take the blame for this one. I don't think that this is a case of a grade-obsessed student being irritated by a teacher who's being innovative. It was a poorly constructed assignment, and that made it really frustrating to work on. I ended up doing a kind of a travel guide for some of England's main tourist destinations, and I'm pretty sure I got a good grade on it. But it was still a really unsatisfying experience. I never knew if I was on the right track. I didn't really get the point of it. And because of that, I wasn't able to truly exercise any kind of creative muscle. I remember the whole time I had this underlying shruggy feeling like, well, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. If the assignment had had just a little bit more structure to it, I think I would have loved it. And this structure could have looked a lot of ways. Here are just 2 versions of what the prompt for that paper could have looked like. First option. In your opinion, what has been England's most significant contribution, positive or negative, to the world? Second option. What is one value that is characteristic of English culture? Show how human-made items in the country, physical products, media, traditions, even whole cities, illustrate that value. If I had been given either of those assignments, I would have been much more intrigued and much more excited about the challenge presented by them. They're still very open-ended, but at least they give a student a starting point to go from. So if your students are turning in work to you that's a little uninspired, the problem might be that you're not giving them enough freedom, or it might be that you're giving them too much. Keep experimenting until you hit the sweet spot in between. That's your tip for this time. You can find a written version of these tips at cultofpedagogy.com/edutips. Now go forth, make thoughtful choices, and teach.